Okay, and share screen. Let's see here. Share and play. There we go. Okay, thanks for joining us today. Debbie and I are here again for part two of information on agent investors or agents investing in real estate themselves, or just basic knowledge of things that people can do to invest in real estate. If you have investor clients, it could be someone just looking to start investing in real estate, people that are already investing in real estate. Just want to give you some basic ideas, knowledge, and thought process, and other things that you could look up and learn more about in detail. So we can't put you through a whole real estate investment class and Zoom in 30 minutes and become a real estate investor master. So, but we're giving you some topics and some things to think about to know that are out there. So this is part two, and I'll let Deb run with it. So go ahead.
Okay, so the next thing on our list, we talked about fix and flips last time. So if you haven't watched that video, you can go back and watch that one. So now this one, we're going to talk about a couple different things, but rental properties, because that's mostly what people want. They either want to fix and flip or they want to do a rental property. And when you're getting into real estate and you come to me and you say, oh, I want to be an investor, I've bought and sold a couple already. So everyone thinks it's easy. It's not so easy, y'all, to be an investor. You really, really, really need to do your due diligence and take some classes. Take some CEU classes so you understand what the investor is trying to say to you, or when you're trying to talk to somebody as an investor, what you should be looking at. So when you're dealing with rental properties, there's a couple different ways. There's a short-term rental like an Airbnb. There's a long-term lease, which is mostly what people understand. Your 1 year, your 2 year, even 6 months would be considered semi-long term, right? And that has a lease agreement with a beginning and an end. And then there's property management. So we're not going to touch on property management because Homestar doesn't do property management, but you might have some investors who want to go that way. Totally fine. You can hook them up with a property management company. We do know a couple ones, so we could suggest them to you. But just as you know, as a Homestar agent, you cannot do property management because our E&O doesn't cover that.
And another thing to jump in is that you should be asking and getting that set up or helping people get that set up somewhere before they buy.
Correct.
Sometimes
Yes.
we both get calls from our agents like, okay, I sold the property to an investor. Now he's trying to help. We were trying to find a property management company, and he wants me to help out until we find some. But the work on that before, have them interview before they buy. So if you find someone that doesn't have a property management company, or sometimes their agents get involved with people that just have one or two properties, and then all of a sudden they buy some more and they can't handle it themselves and need property managers. So look that up, and like Debbie said, we have a few names to give out.
Yeah. If you're the owner, though, and you're the agent, you can manage your own properties. You don't have to ship those out. This is just working for someone else.
Correct.
So what is going to be entailed when you have a rental property? There's all kinds of things you have to remember, right? You got to worry about the property maintenance. Who's going to do that? You're either going to do it yourself or you're going to be hiring out things. So all of this comes into play with as far as your uh, return on your investment there. Tenant screening, you're going to have to screen your tenants if you are the owner, or they're going to have to screen their tenants. There's plenty of places on the internet that you can sign up as a landlord for tenant screening. And there's one Rental Beast on the MLS that will do it for a fee. And then Tenant Magic is what I've used in the past, but that was quite a few years ago, where you can sign up as a landlord and they'll do the background check and the credit report and all that jazz for a fee. The client goes directly to the website, pays them directly, and then you as the landlord gets the information back so you can make your choices available there. And that is the landlord, though, not you as the agent. All of this stuff that I'm talking about is what a landlord has to do. If you happen to own the property, that's okay, but you're not doing this for them. Um, Make sure that you're aware of legal obligations when you are an owner with a rental property. Just in Cleveland alone, you have to make sure that the house is lead safe certified now. So if you don't know what that program's all about, you need to go onto the internet and make sure that you search it. Because if you're dealing with investors who want to buy or sell in Cleveland, or you want to do so your own, each property has to be lead safe certified if there's going to be a tenant involved.
And
So no, go ahead.
yeah, no, just like it's very important, especially if you're new to the game of investments. I've seen this happen so many times, and not recently, which is nice, but to investors that just get into rental properties and not know their the rights of themselves as landlords, the rights of their tenants, and how it works and what they can and can't do and can't do. And what happens sometimes, unfortunately, for some investors that are not lucked out, never had anything, a bad tenant, or just get new to it. Some tenants, sometimes in a bad way, know the tenant laws better than the landlord and take advantage of that. So that's why you got to be more prepared. Than you should know what your rights are and their rights are more than the tenant does.
Absolutely correct. I was just going to touch on that, but that's
Yeah,
perfect.
good. Go ahead if you have anything to
No,
add to
no,
that.
we need, you said it perfectly. I mean, you need to know. You can't be running blind, because you can't go to a judge and say, well, I didn't know that, because they're going to be like, then you shouldn't be doing this, right? So just
Yeah,
check all that stuff out. Make sure your landlord is talking to a lawyer or does their research too. You can
yeah.
find out a lot of stuff online.
I had an agent who had a property. It's been a couple years now, but they had someone come in and rent out the property, and they found out that the person renting out the property wasn't the actual person living in the property. And this person that was renting the property out was just doing it. It was like a hired person to do applications and sign leases, and the people were paying them to get into properties to get good and sign leases. And it was a whole scam, because
Wow.
and they knew the laws. They knew the laws of how long they could stay there until they got evicted, and then they would just go move somewhere else. And so you never know until you get one of those bad cases of someone that's just not a great person or group of people, and they're just going to scam you, and then you have your place. Yeah, so just be careful. That's why. But again, that was several years ago, and this is before real good tenant screening. Meet the people who's signing it. Nowadays, people are signing things like electronically. You should meet the people that are in your place. Stupid little things like that. Who's going to live there? Go check on your properties. Sign leases face to face like you used to do, not just electronically. That kind of thing. Check driver's licenses, all that stuff like that.
Yeah, at least in the beginning, the very first lease should always be done face to face. If they want to renew online or through the email or the DocuSign or what have you, that's different. But face to face should always be the
Mm-hmm.
first one, for sure. Make sure you understand about yeah, what do you call it? Um, Evictions.
Right.
That's
Oh
the
yeah,
word
yeah.
I was thinking of.
Right.
Make sure that you understand the eviction laws, and that your landlord understands the eviction procedures, and fair housing as well. So all of this stuff comes into play. And now you're probably going, man, I thought this was going to be easy, right? Nope. Here's a whole learning curve right here. Lease agreements is the next thing on my list. So you want to make sure that the lease is well drafted and that it covers all the terms of the rent, including security deposit, who's supposed to maintain what on the property, if pets are supposed to be allowed, if they're not supposed to be allowed, things like that. We have a basic one, but to be honest with you, all landlords should be talking to a lawyer and have a lease agreement drawn up for their specific purposes, which is not you practicing law. This is something from a lawyer that has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
We do want a copy of all lease agreements when you're dealing with rental properties here at the office, whether it's your own rental or whether you're working with someone else. So there's paperwork involved, and
Mhm.
they have to be legally done legally the right way. Okay. You got to make sure that you have property insurance on your property and that it will cover the tenants, or if not, the tenants have to get their own insurance on the property too. So all of this stuff really is things that you have to be paying attention to. And you can learn a lot of this through your CEU classes. They teach you all
Right,
of this stuff. So yeah, you got to pay a couple bucks, but go take the classes because it's very
right.
informative. So,
And then evictions.
evictions. Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
we won't give you legal advice exactly how to do them or what you need to do, but definitely because we don't want to be the, hey, Debbie and Tony told you this, and this is how you do one. But you got to know how to do them or who can do them for you, and how how the process works. Because if you're going to be a real estate investor for having any number of properties for a long period of time, you or a client that is, they're going to come across have to evict people, and you got to make sure you do it correctly.
yes. And there's notices that have to be given out to people in court proceedings and all that jazz. So definitely check with, if you're going to be the landlord, check with your own legal counsel to find out what the requirements are in your specific area. And again, if you're a real estate agent and you're working with a landlord and you have a property listed and stuff, it's not you that's giving the eviction notices to people, okay?
Right. Yes.
It is
Thank you for
not
saying that.
you. It is not you.
Yeah. I haven't had
Yeah,
one in a while, but occasionally I have an agent. So, hey, I've got this out of town investor. He wants me to help sell their property, but I got to help him evict some people.
no.
You can't help them evict some people. You could point them to some attorneys or point them to some websites of what they have to do, or they have to have an employee, W-2 employee of their company do it. But yeah, you got to make sure, because you don't want to be the they'll be the messenger to these tenants, and then you get involved legally of what's being done.
Yeah, or I get a call saying, "Hey, your agent served me an eviction notice and I want to talk to you about it." And I'm like, "Say what?" Okay, I have
Exactly.
no idea what you're talking about,
Exactly. All right, Max, go ahead.
Okay, so 1031 exchanges are taxed. It's a tax deferral strategy. So a 1031, do you want to tell people what a 1031 is?
Basically, I'll just give you the general, but you need to have someone, and Mike Ferrante has someone that he recommends, and I think I still have his number. You need to have someone that's very familiar in how to do them. Not an agent, but actually a financial investor or a financial advisor and or accountant to help you with that. So basically what a 1031 exchange is, that you sell a piece of commercial property, or investment property. I think it still can be, I'm not too sure if it can be a single family house, but I know commercial, like apartment buildings and commercial, businesses like a strip center or office building. But you have a certain number of time to take that profit that you made on the sale between the time, the equity you had in it between the time you bought it. So you bought something at 500,000, you sold it for 800,000, you have 300,000 in capital gains. You could reinvest that and buy another property. It's kind of exchanging the funds, not the property. You're not exchanging properties or changing the funds. You're not taking them, because there's a way to handle the funds to make sure you don't have to pay taxes on that. You're just reinvesting those funds. So that's in general what a 1031 exchange is. And you need an actual person that knows how to allocate the funds and where the funds are being held before they close on the next property. You can't like close on a property, put the money in your bank and just buy a new property and can call it a 1031 exchange for the IRS purposes. So you can't do that. You just, so occasionally we've had that, hey, look, I sold this property, bought a new property, it's a 1031 exchange. I don't have to pay capital gains tax on that money. No, as soon as your accountant hears that, they're going to say no. So,
Absolutely correct. I mean, that was a great way to sum it up in a little bow, because you can't do it solo, is what he's telling you. You have to have someone else do it for you. And there are qualifying properties. So it could be commercial, it could be rental, it could be vacant land, but it cannot be a personal residence or a primary home. Okay,
right.
so that doesn't qualify.
And there's really nothing different the agent has to do. It's just going by the advice of their 1031 advisor. Okay, this property will qualify, this, this purchase will qualify. There's no different paperwork that you have to do or process you have to do of showing properties or listing properties. It's just making sure that they have the right person that knows what they're doing with their funds and allocating it, and when the property's transferred, that type of thing. But your job as an agent really is not much different.
Right.
If that makes sense.
There's a couple different periods of time that you need to know about. So there's a 45-day identification period in which the exchanger has 45 days to find that replacement property. Okay. And then it has to be, the offer has to be put in writing and then submitted to that qualifier person that you're working with, the intermediary, we'll call them.
Yeah.
And then there's 180-day exchange period from when they relinquish the property to the replacement property. And it has to be equal or greater value, which is what Tony said before for that. The tax deferment, of course, is always going to be done with the intermediary. He's the one that's going to be talking to the tax people and tell you what all that means. So it's just an easier way for you to go from one property to the next without paying your capital gains tax. It has to be like for like properties, though. You really can't go from one to a different extreme, is what they're telling me. So I've never done one, but that's what they talk
Yeah,
about.
no, I've been through, well, let me say this. As a real estate company, we've been through several of them, but the actual process, we just let the expert handle that. So how it's kind of done.
Yeah,
But I know the
exactly.
paperwork involved and all that. I said, okay, talk to the expert. They'll handle that end of things,
Yeah. So again, if
you
you
want
want
to,
to,
as an agent, concentrate on the marketing of the property. If they're selling something or finding the new property and showing the new property, getting all the information that needed for everybody on the new property they're buying, you concentrate on what you do and let
yep,
them concentrate on what they do.
exactly. Stay in your lane.
Next, go ahead.
So this just goes up a little bit of what we were talking about with the 1031. So it gives you a little
Oh,
bit
okay.
if you
Yep,
want
yep.
to
Yep.
copy
Sorry,
that.
I didn't click that. Sorry, we went
No,
over
that's okay. I forgot it.
that.
I forgot it was there. But that just gives you guys a reference. If you want to go back and grab that screen, it'll remind you of
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
things that we
Yep.
just talked about.
There
Um,
you go. Well, go ahead.
okay. So the last thing I want to talk about here is crowdfunding. So a lot of times you want to be an investor, or you have an investor and they just don't know where to get money from, right? So there's all kinds of different ways to get the money. You can get the money from a bank. You can get the money from a personal banker. You can get the money from a hard money lender. You can get the money from crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is when more than one person piles all their money together and they buy something. Basically, that's crowd, right? It's crowdfunding. Um, there's different ways to do crowdfunding. It could be donation based, it could be reward based, it could be equity ownership shares. Mostly in the purposes that we're talking about, though, it's for real estate purchasing and developing properties and stuff. So that is another source. You may or may not have heard about it. You can find a ton of information about crowdfunding on the National Association of Realtors website, in that little booklet that you can download for free on the Commercial Connection for crowdfunding. I highly suggest that everybody do that so that you can do your own research. It's all about knowing what you're talking about, and that's kind of where we're going with this today. You need to know what you're talking about. When you're talking to investors, they're going to use words that you may or may not have ever heard before. If you go to a CEU class, you're going to know what they're saying. If they're saying, I want to know what the ROI is for this, what did he just say, right?
Mm-hmm.
What what's the cap rate? Well, I don't know. Deb, how do I figure out a cap rate? Well, I can tell you a basic formula, but if you go to your class and you do this and you save all your material, you can do your own spreadsheets that will figure this out for you yourself. They give you all the formulas when you go to the class so that you can put all this stuff together and then you'll know what they're talking about,
And
right?
yeah, and it's again, it's really just knowing what they're talking about when you hear these terms. So it's not like you know, at least step one, at least know what the definition of it is and what the reason behind it and the importance of certain terms are in investing, you know. So at least you could not know the resources where to go when they come up, you know.
Well,
So
right.
you
And
don't
so
have
that you
to, like I would say, you don't have to sit there all day long practicing cap rates on properties and ROIs and all of that. But at least you know what the terms are, and then when it comes up again, you know where the resource is to freshen up on it. Because when you're new to it, you're not doing it every day. You're not going to have all these investors come for you, and you're running reports and helping them analyze properties every day. But at least you know the reason. Oh, I got to go back. What exactly? How do I have to do that? And that's what I had to do for years. Is just I had to, because I didn't come across it often as an agent when I first started. So just at least know the resources and take the classes and see where you can go to freshen up on the definitions and terms when they do come up.
Yeah, for sure. And save it so that you have a folder that says investor terms or whatever. And then they say, oh, I'm going to need to know what the ROI is on that. And then you think, my God, I can't even remember what that means. It means return on investment, right? But you go to your little source on your computer, you click on your term. Oh, yes, you want the return on investment for this. I'll either figure it out or I'll get it from the listing agent. And then when you're talking to the other people, the listing agent, or if you're trying to get an investment property to sell, and the seller tells you things and you can ask them for things. So things that we want to give to the buyer when they buy this property is they're going to want to know what your rent rolls are. They're going to want to know what your cap rate is. They're going to want to know what your return on investment was. What are your rates for this? What are your rates for that? And then you can put it all together and you will be the professional, which is what we are, right? So you will show your value if you can talk to them intelligently about things. And the more that you study and learn all this stuff, then you'll be able to put it to use when you're doing your own properties and stuff.
Exactly. And last, go over our classes coming up.
We're getting towards the end of the year, so we don't have any more classes for November, but in December, we do have Mike Ferrante's doing core law, and then you have Frosty's finances with Hush on December 7th. And that'll get us to the end of the year and the holidays and all that fun stuff. Of course, there's the link to the purchase agreement there. All of our YouTube videos are down at the bottom. Everybody, I just want to let you know I filled Tony in a little bit earlier today. I'm going to be doing a 4-week series. It'll be on Mondays at noon for an hour on Moxie Work. So stay tuned for that. We're going to get into a really big deep dive with a gal that I met from Century 21. She's going to help us and it's going to be great. So stay tuned for that one. It's going to start on the 13th. No, it's going to start on the 27th of November. We have to go after Thanksgiving. So starting on the 27th of November, we're going to have a 4-week series for Moxie Works on Monday at noon. It'll be a Zoom meeting, and I'm also going to record that, so it'll be on our website too.
Yeah, that's good. Good stuff. And the will be recorded too, right? So
Yeah, we're going to record it. Yep.
So don't worry if you can't make it, it will be recorded. So we'll have those and we'll have them, they're not going to expire.
Oh, no. And it'll be, I can send you the link, hey, I didn't get to the meeting, but send me the link. This is going to be good because she's going to get into a lot of things that I don't even know about that program because it's so new to us. So I'm excited. Here's your little thing because we're right smack in the middle of football. You and your referrals are a touchdown for my business. So you can always send that out to people, your sphere of influence, or any football fan that you know. Remind them who you are, where you work. It's
Exactly.
all about.
Well, that's it for today. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. And thanks for your support. Like we both like to hear from you when you say you watch our videos and
Yeah.
enjoy the content. It's always nice to hear.
It is. It makes
So,
my heart swell.
well, good. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Have a great Tuesday, great week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oh, you know what? Never mind. I selected, no, it was that was medical hire came on somebody. It's selected. So,